Disclaimer: we are unqualified and unapologetic. We are not professionals, just married. Take what works, leave what doesn't. Let's do this.
Sessions and lessons unscripted. The mic crackles truth unrestricted. Voices raw like alleys at midnight. Spitting fire, no filter, just insight.
Hey everybody, it's Joel, host of Sessions and Lessons Unscripted. Hope you are doing well. I appreciate you tuning in, hitting that button. And here with me, the lovely Gloria Rosario.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
I hope, like I said, I hope everybody's doing well. How are you, Gloria? How are things?
I'm good. Surviving.
All right, guys. I think we'll just go straight into the episode. It may be a little bit longer than usual. In our last episode, we were kind of talking about my story a little bit, and in this episode, we're gonna let Glo take over and kind of tell you where she's coming from, how she is the way she is, and whatnot. Should we all be scared?
No. I'll be gentle.
Yes, please be gentle. No, in all seriousness, it's we kind of went through this in the last episode. We're not trying to cheapen anybody's experiences or any kind of make light of any issues, serious issues. But we also want to let you know that these are our experiences, how we're, handling it or whatever. And so this is just our experiences. We know that this, we try not to cheapen others, other things, I guess. Right?
Yes, this is all from a personal perspective, so please don't get offended if I say something that's kind of out of pocket, because I most likely will.
Yes, that's our Miss Out of Pocket. Yes, no, maybe so.
Possibly. We'll see how it goes.
All right, Gloria. So I guess we just begin from the beginning, right? Where you born, where you from, all that stuff. So the floor is yours, dear.
The original villain story?
Yes.
Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Alrighty, here we go. So let me just say, I grew up in a Latin household with a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
We had uncles, aunts, cousins living with us at any moment when we were super young.
And you are also from Chicago,
Yes.
Born and raised.
Yes, I was born here in Chicago. I was raised in Chicago. I was raised in Mexico for a while with my grandmother, and so was one of my other brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I should start. So my mom came here when she was about 17, 15, 17, something around there. She actually I don't even know if I want to say this, but let's just say she arrived here at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And she started working instead of going to high school and, going that route. She was eager to start sending money home to my grandparents and, her younger siblings. So she worked. She worked at a lot of different places, but the one that stands out the most is the cookie factory.
Of course.
Yes, which I have talks about that. Yeah.
Cookie factory. You know what? And on the side note, this place was a pretty well-known place. It was especially locally here. And every time you would drive around there in that area or past the place, the smell was phenomenal. Remember?
Yes, I remember. My mom used to come home smelling like cookies, and me and my brothers would kind of like just pounce her because she smelled so delicious. And recently we were
And
talking.
she's like, "Get off of me."
Yeah, she's like, I'm all sweaty and hot from working in a cookie factory. But I was like, it was the most delicate, beautiful smell. Like whenever I smell cookies, I'm reverted back to those moments when my mom used to come home. So she worked there. Not sure for how long, but she was basically supporting Well, at this time, I think she was still married to well, we don't call him dad, we call him sperm donor.
Mm.
Um, I kind of figured things out on my own as I got older. Um, my dad and my mom had a very volatile relationship. Let's just leave it at that. I'm not gonna get too much into
No, you
details.
don't have to go into detail.
But basically, my dad was a super control freak and kept my mom under his thumb. And there was even instances where one of my aunts had to come and give us food through the window because my dad would lock us in the house. So it was that type of surrounding, I guess, that I kind of grew up in until my mom decided to leave him, which was probably one of the best decisions that she probably could have made. Um, I remember the day that my dad left. I think I've told you, but I've never really talked about it on air. Is that it was I don't remember if it was like nighttime or super early in the morning, but I was in pajamas either way. And I remember that I was sitting there and I was watching it was either the Care Bears, My Little Pony, or something to that effect. And I just remember that I heard my mom and my dad arguing, and my mom was crying, and my dad walked past me and out the door, and that was pretty much it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've talked to my mom about it, and she's like so astonished that I have memories of, those times, which I really do,
Well, yeah.
Um, so anyways, my mom worked very hard, very long hours. We barely ever went without anything that we needed. If my mom couldn't give it to us, one of her brothers or sisters would give it to us. It was still kind of rough because, she was still a single mom, but my mom, she was never on any type of welfare. She never went on food stamps.
Really?
None of that. My mom refused to have any help like that.
Wow.
The school would still give my mom like these little care packages and stuff, and we wouldn't eat most of that stuff. We were used to like the Mexican cheese and beans and stuff. And this was like all Caucasian food.
What does that even mean?
Like it would be more like barbecue sauce and just American cheese.
I see what you're saying. You're not.
No, we were used to like the Mexican cheese and beans and
That I'm sorry. This just caught me as funny. Caucasian food.
Caucasian food.
What does that mean? Food is food.
Yes and no. But anyways,
I know what you mean.
yeah.
Everybody out there, don't take that the wrong way.
Please don't. It's
Yeah.
just, we eat.
I guess it'd be no different than saying Mexican food, right?
Right. No, it's different.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, okay. Anyways, we're trying not to offend. So,
Okay. So anyways, my mom was working all sorts of hours. So of course, in a typical Latin home, a single home, the oldest becomes the mini mom. And that was my role. I mentioned it before. As soon as I was old enough to reach the stove.
well, just in general, you're the oldest. You're supposed to be the most responsible one.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
look how that turned out,
Yeah. Yeah.
But, so yeah, I started helping out my mom and stuff, and I've never really talked about this on here. This is probably the most in depth and the most that I will get into it. Because my mom was working so long, I fell to predators. I was sexually molested, by two people in my family and a neighbor. And I went through a lot of abuse with that. And obviously you feel uncomfortable and you know that the situation just isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't know any better. I just knew that
Well,
it
you're
felt
a kid. You don't
right.
know what's going on.
No, I didn't. So, thankfully, we moved from there, and the people that live with us at the moment left, so I wasn't being abused anymore. But of course, that left a lot of psychological things wrong with me. I mean, think about it. I was a kid being molested by all these different men who were supposed to be my protectors, you know? So it was hard. You know, it was hard for me to. At school, I was always described as like silent and serious and kind of sad. Well, that's why, you know?
Let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this earlier.
Yeah.
So, did you realize what was going on early on or later when you got older that this is
Later, when I got older and I started experiencing like friendships with other kids and,
yeah,
you know, in my distorted little brain, because I didn't know any better, I thought it happened to everybody,
right?
you know?
I know for myself, I mean, people have heard my story, and I've lived a long time with this person, and I didn't really call it abuse until later.
Yeah.
I really didn't take a look at it and call it what it was.
And also, this is going to sound funny because, well, not funny, but I didn't realize what was happening to me until I was exposed to DARE. And to teachers telling us, no, people are not supposed to touch you there.
Right.
People are not supposed to, you know. So I put two and two together. I mean, I was pretty alert for a kid my age. So I told my mom, but she didn't necessarily believe what I was saying. But I don't blame her, you know, because you don't ever want to think that somebody that's supposed to protect your child is the abuser, you know. So from then on, I just kept quiet. I never told anybody what was going on until I got older. And I started exhibiting, you know, behavioral problems. You know, I was very aggressive towards boys. I was very aggressive towards older males. I was very aggressive just with everybody in general. And people didn't understand why I was so aggressive, but it was because I was protecting myself. And one day I got through DARE and they were talking about how if somebody touches you or a friend, you're supposed to tell someone. So I told my teacher and she was awesome. You know, to this day, I still remember her. You know, she sat me down and she asked me what happened. And, you know, I told her basically everything that had happened. And she's like, does your mom know? And I was like, no, I never. I told them no, just because I didn't. Even at a young age, I knew that it was something bad and I didn't want to get in trouble and I didn't want to get my mom into trouble.
Right.
But all I knew was that Officer Friendly had said, you know, this is bad. So around this time I started experiencing like more issues like with behavior. And I decided at a very young age to run away from home. the the kind of like funny twist to it is that I don't know if you guys ever read My Side of the Mountain. It's about this boy who I guess runs away and he learns how to be like live in the mountains and he has his hawk and he trains his hawk and it's a really good story, you know. So my brilliant ass gets the idea I'm gonna go live in the forest.
Wait a minute. So you ran away
Yeah.
and you wanted to live in the forest?
Yes, with all the animals. Think about it. Think about how the situation was that I would rather live alone in the streets than to be in the particular area where I was at. That's kind of messed up now that I think about it, you know?
Right.
So, I convinced some other classmates to run away with me.
Wow. Okay.
I did. There was, I think, two boys and two other girls like around my age.
And how did they go along with this? Were they having trouble at home too, or?
No, they just thought I was awesome. I
Wow. Okay.
have power of influence over people.
Yeah, she does.
Obviously.
That's how I'm here. That's why I'm here. For the power of influence.
No, so we were so dumb. I went home, I got a sleeping bag, my backpack, snacks.
So basically, you guys went camping.
Well, yes and no.
That's what you did. You went camping.
So the bus driver saw that we had like all of these things, you know, with us. And she's like, what the hell are you guys doing? And I told her, I was like, oh, I'm going to go live in the forest. Just like nothing, you know?
And you were how old at this point? 15?
No, I was little. I was maybe in like first grade, second grade.
Oh gosh.
Yes, so I was little planning all of this stuff. Maybe even third grade. Between first and third, I didn't know any better. So eventually the bus driver got a hold of the teachers called the police, and I was the last one to get caught. I I outsmarted everybody because down the street from where we were, there was a parking garage and there was these bushes, and underneath the bushes there was like a little den, right? And I just found it one day exploring, and I went to go hide there. And I would see the police officers passing by, walking, my teachers, social worker, everybody, And I was like, how am I going to do this by myself now? Like, I have nobody to protect me, nobody to watch me. So I was like, okay, I let myself get caught. And I went to school, and everybody was so worried. Like, it became a huge deal. The superintendent was there, the principal, their boss, like just everybody and their mother was there, and they asked me, like, what is wrong with you? Like, are you okay? Are you having issues at home? And then that's when I told them everything, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be with my mom. I don't want to be anywhere. I just want to live by myself so I'm not hurt. So they ended up, actually, now that I think about it, I was in third grade. And they ended up putting me into, I don't know what to call it, like a behavior hospital. Like it was a local hospital over here. Um, the hospital still exists, but they changed the name of it and they, redid it. But it's in the area where I grew up in, around Des Plaines. And they put me in there, and they had to do like psych evals and just, that's really when I told the social worker everything that had happened, and, how I had talked to my mom, and just, I told her everything, and they told me that I was going to have to tell my mom. And I was so scared to tell my mom because, like, as a kid, you're not used to being listened to, So I told my mom everything that happened, and she kind of accepted it. And she's like, running away is not the answer. I was like, well, I didn't know what else to do. I don't feel happy here. I hate myself. I want to end myself, is basically what I told my mom. I felt lost. I was confused. I felt dirty. I felt so many different emotions, And I was hospitalized, in this institution for a few months. And I had therapy. I had social workers. I had group therapy, single therapy. And eventually I came home, and that was that, because so much time had happened from the time that, I was abused to the time where I actually sat down and told someone. What is it called? The time had run out in order for my mom to do anything legally about anything.
The statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations, yes, had already passed at that point.
Okay.
So I was basically just told, deal with it. That's how they dealt with things back then, So my mom at this point got remarried to somebody else who was a dick. Like that ended up being a whole nother,
So worse than the other one?
Well, nah. I just didn't like him. And there was a reason why I didn't like him. He just never, I've always been a good judge of, like, if I like you, I like you. And if I don't, there's a reason. I don't know the reason, but I don't like you. It's
Your BS meter went off.
Right. And because I was exposed to so many different things, like I said, domestic abuse with my relatives beating their spouses, alcoholism, all of that stuff. I was already on the road to being kind of like mentally dysfunctional, So when my mom got remarried, I was not happy about it. I was not. We were so used to just it being my mom and my brothers for so long. And here comes this man who all of a sudden wants control. Now, my mom had always been lenient with me and just kind of, well, my mom was strict. Don't get me wrong. My mom was very authoritarian. I probably butchered that word. My mom was, her word was law, and like that was it, you know. So when he came along, he wanted to have the pants in the house. And it was just like, I was so like not accepting of it. It was just like, he's in his world, I'm in my world. I don't talk to you. You know, he would take my brothers like to basketball games and just monster truck rallies and all sorts of things. And I was never really included, but I think that's because I was a douchebag. Like I really was, you know. And it just, I never saw eye to eye with him with anything. And when time went on, he tried to do something to me. At this point, I was 15, 14, like between 14 and 15.
So there was a period of time between the last time and this time.
Oh yeah,
Where-
like once I got out of the hospital and all
So
that
at this
stuff.
point, would you say that you were kind of healing from the last?
No,
No.
nope. I was starting, like you said, to develop. I sent everything to hell by the time I was, like, by the time I hit 12, that was my rebellion. That was when I started rebelling. Most kids wait until like they're 15, 16. No, I started doing it at 12. Mostly because I didn't like my mom's spouse. My dad was in and out of our lives. Like I've mentioned before, he would come, spend thousands. Back then, to buy like name brand things was expensive.
Yeah.
You remember? Yeah. Like I said, he would buy us Nike jackets, backpacks, shoes, you know, all of these things, you know. He'd be around for a little bit and then he'd disappear for a little bit. And that was our cycles with him, you know. My dad was, from what I know and what I've confirmed with other people, my dad is schizophrenic. So we were so much better off without him in our lives. You know, it was good that he just came and went and that was it. So fast forwarding to, you know, when I started rebelling, we grew up in a Jehovah's Witness household. I've never talked about that either. I'm very respectful towards other people's religions. I just, having it, like you said in the other episode, having religion shoved in your face all the time just kind of didn't go with me. You know, I never felt like I was part of the congregation, which is what they call it. They had like this brother and sisterhood, you know, like these relationships had been formed from a really young age, like all the kids that were there. We were there, but not there. You know, like, my brothers integrated really well into it, but because I was rebellious, you know, I never really fit in. You know, I knew I didn't fit in. You know, I was like, oh, this is so like stupid and I hate this. And just, you know, we grew up in the religion, but like I said, we didn't become really, I guess, solid into it until after I got out of the hospital. My mom thought that I needed debus in my life, or, you know, or just structure. So she started forcing it down in our faces. And again, my mom is human. My mom had her own trauma. My mom had her own issues. So she was dealing with life as best as she could. You know, she worked a lot and she was never home, you know, and if she was home, she'd be so tired, you know. My mom used to work long hours. And let me tell you, while there was some things that we missed out on, I think compared to other kids who had like a single family home, we were spoiled within my mom's means, you know. Nintendo came out. We were the first kids with Nintendo. The VCR thing came out. We got a VCR. Like, you know what I mean? My mom she always made sure that we were dressed presentable, even though our clothes were from Goodwill. You know, even though my mom struggled financially, she always did what she had to do to get us where we needed to be. And, you know, in that sense, it's just like that's the relationship I had with my mom. When I was younger, it was very volatile between me and my mom when she got remarried. So like I said, he attempted to one night. At this point, we had lived in one suburb and we switched to the suburb next door. It was literally like just across the street. And I grew up in I guess now it's called the Allstate Arena, but back then it used to be called the Rosemont. So I grew up in the Rosemont apartments, and we were borderline with Des Plaines, you know. So, like I said, I had a not a necessarily happy childhood, but I was always on top of my brothers, babysitting and all of that. And once that stuff happened with my stepdad, I had already started to use um drugs. Actually, I'm sorry, I skipped over something. When I was 15, 14 in ninth grade, um I got caught trying to sell substances in school. And I got arrested at school on school property, handcuffed and all in front of all the other students, They took me to the police station and everything was cool until I realized that they were going to call my mom and I was like, shit, I'm just in so much trouble now. Um, so, at that point I hadn't touched anything yet. I was still kind of learning, but all of a sudden I went from trying to slang it to using, which was two completely different things because as some people know, you don't smoke your own stash, you don't do your own stash. That's for you to sell. So I was hanging out. I had um I'm not gonna say who they were, but I grew up with the same group of kids in Rosemont and we all kind of got into the same thing at the same time. We're all friends. And I started selling and then using and then I lost control. I was partying all the time. There was rumors about me being like super promiscuous when I was younger. That was not the case. Like I just hung out with a lot of guys. And rumors started and I just didn't give two craps about what anybody had to say. I was going to do things my way. I was going to protect myself my way. And I was going to be myself without being myself, if that makes sense. I had a lot of pain, a lot of anger, a lot of, I guess, distorted thinking. And around this time is when my stepdad left. My mom kicked him out because of what had happened, one night between him and I. And I told my mom, I was like, you have to pick, Mom. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't be here anymore. It's either you pick him or you pick me. I was like, but I guarantee you that if you pick him, my backside is the last thing you're ever going to see of me as I'm walking out the door. He tried apologizing, he tried explaining, and I just wasn't hearing it. I was like, no, this is like enough. So when I was using and stuff, he left and everything went to hell from there. My mom got depressed, she lost her job, and it was up to me to kind of work through things.
Right.
I still kept using, which wasn't helping the situation. I kept using and just, I was a dick. You know what I mean? I was very selfish at the time. I didn't care about anything or anybody. I just wanted to exist without feeling anything. And I figured that if I OD'd one day, great.
So you wanted that to happen?
I don't know what I wanted. It was just that all I knew is that I had pain. And the fact that I had friends who were doing the same stuff and just, getting plastered and high and all of that, it just seemed normal to me.
Right.
And I liked the feeling of not
Have to worry about anything.
have to worry about anything. I didn't have the pressure of the household with my mom, with her being depressed.
Right.
I didn't have to worry about my brothers. I didn't have to worry about anything but just that moment. And it got pretty bad for a while. Eventually I got older and I used for a couple of years. I guess maybe from the time I started experimenting when I was like 14.
Well, you said you started doing stuff at 12, no?
I started kind of drinking at 12.
Okay.
And that was just bottles and stuff that I would find randomly
Yeah.
at the house. The parents always keep a liquor cabinet and
Yeah.
stuff. And my mom wouldn't.
I may or may have not have partaken in stuff.
I'm sure you did because all of us do at some point. I'm not gonna fake the funk.
Well, it wasn't my parents because my parents didn't drink or anything. It
No,
was like
well,
friends' parents.
we were Mexicans and alcohol was very readily available
yeah.
all over the place. So I started experimenting with like drinking, and then as I got older, it got more deeper and deeper. And by the time I was like 15 and in high school, I had gotten expelled from school. I had a criminal record at that point.
And why did you get expelled?
Oh, I told you because I got caught selling
Oh, that's
herb.
okay.
Yeah, I got caught selling herb in school.
Okay.
And oddly enough, it wasn't me that got caught. I ended up hiring, I don't know.
Hiring?
I had two goons or whatever,
Cool.
two henchmen.
Wow.
Hench ladies, I guess.
Was you're sure your last name is in Montana, or like what's going on, Scarface?
I don't know, dude.
Wow.
And things were going really good, and I was making money, and my mom was so busy with work and just trying to keep her head above water with the depression that she was going through.
Right, so she had her own distraction.
She had her own distractions. So here I am, just left and right, just kind of doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it got heavy, so I started to, I guess, take on more people. Like, hey, dude, I got to wait for you to make money if you're smart about it and not dumb and get caught. And I showed them the stash of cash that I had. And I was like, look, this is just from selling bud to people. That's all you have to do. Sell it to your friends, And everything was going good for a while. Was making money, just kind of like, and with that money, I would go back, turn around, and give it to my brothers for the stuff that they needed for school.
So would you say that you were doing this more to help out and support your family, or you were doing it for selfish reasons? Why?
Everything. I was doing it for selfish reasons. I was doing it to help my family. I was doing it to pay whatever crap I could pay with it. Yes and no. Ultimately, I was being selfish though, because, it turned my world upside down. Once I had gotten kicked out of school, my mom decided that she wanted to kick me out. Oh, this was a little bit before my stepdad left. They were still kind of together, and that was before that incident happened between me and him.
Mm-hmm.
He decided that I was no longer allowed in the house, and he convinced my mom to kick me out at 15.
Uh-huh.
I was like, well, shit, what am I going to do now?
Right.
So they shipped me off to my dad's house, which was like not good.
And this is your dad.
The sperm donor.
Okay.
Yes. Original daddy.
Okay.
So they shipped me off there, and of course he's not used to dealing with my funky attitude. He's not used to dealing with a teenager,
Uh-huh.
He had another daughter with another lady, but she was younger. And I really didn't have a relationship with her, but I do now as an adult, like many years later,
Uh-huh.
And
She's great, by the way.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Her husband is awesome too.
Oh,
they're good people.
awesome people, yeah.
But at this point in my life, I wasn't ready for family or anything like that, so I just didn't pay her any mind. And my dad didn't know what to do with me. He was just like, shit, like, what do I do with you? I was like, well, feed me and put me in school. Like, hello.
Yeah, be a dad.
Be a dad. Like, do your freaking job,
Yeah.
He put up with me for, I think, 3 days.
3 days?
3 days.
What?
And then he shipped me off to his sister's house. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to do this. I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I promise you that if you don't take me back or, get me out of the situation, I'm going to do stuff. Like, you think I was bad with you? I was like, just wait,
Yeah.
And she's like, I told her, I was like, I don't know who this man is. You sent me to live with like a stranger. Like, I don't know. He's trying to be affectionate with me and because I have issues. I'm uncomfortable. Like, no, don't touch me. Don't talk to me. Just like stay in your corner of the house, feed me, and take me to school. Like, So eventually my mom convinced my stepdad to let me back in, and I went back in. And then we moved to the other house where, that's when I started, using and all that stuff. But at that point, I had already gotten expelled from school. I had a record. I had to go to court. I was put on probation. I had to do drops, which is, drug testing randomly. Honestly, my probation officer was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me because although I was still using, I got used to the rhythm of the drug testing and all that stuff. So, as a smartass, you learn to kind of manipulate the system and stuff,
Yeah.
So she was a big help. She was like, I told her my story, where I was coming from, and she's like, well, no wonder you're messed up, kid. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know, just I still kept using for a while, but it was less and less. I started to get bored. It wasn't fun anymore. I was addicted, but not because like I've said before, I'm a high functioning drug addict, alcoholic, depression. I run better on stress than I do when I'm not stressed. Like I'm high functioning, and that's how it works. So we ended up losing the house where we were living, and we ended up moving to another area. And by this point, I was already starting to get clean. And I think it was like,
And then why were you getting clean? Were you just fed up with it?
I was
or?
getting fed up. My mom was in disarray. I started to see that one of my brothers was starting to pick up on my habits.
Okay.
And while my brothers are not my brothers, they are like my children, if that makes sense. I know it sounds weird.
Well, you basically
I raised them.
Yeah.
I was the one looking for them when they wouldn't come home. I was the one calling other parents to see if they were at the house,
Right.
That was my job. I was mini mom. That's how we functioned, Discipline, I used to beat the crap out of them. I'm not going to lie. But, as we've gotten older, we've had discussions about that. And I was like, you know what? You guys did not deserve to get beat by me. But you have to understand, I was a kid put in an adult situation and didn't know how to handle things. So for me, yelling and beating you guys was the way to get you guys to do things, And they understand now. But I mean, back then they didn't understand. Me and my middle brother did not get along for a really long time. And, a couple years later, we talked about it. He's like, I just lost so much respect for you when you started doing drugs and just messing up. And I was like, and that hit me some kind of way, because I always tried to be there for them. Whenever my mom would kick me out, because it would happen constantly. But at that point, I was like, I don't need to go to my dad's house. I can go stay with my friends. And that's what I would do. So she would kick me out and see that I would be okay without her. And she'd bring me back home. And this was like an ongoing thing all the time. So by the time I was like 18, 19, I was like done with everything. I had so much stress, with the bills, with my mom depending on me, with my brothers not helping me at this point, because at this point they were in high school. They weren't helping me with the bills. They weren't, they were just running amok, doing what they needed to do. But I was responsible for like the bills getting paid and, paying the rent and paying this and paying that. And it was just like, it got to be too much for me. And I was like, you know what, guys? Deuces. I'm out. Like, I have to leave. I can't be here with you guys anymore. And it was a shock to my brothers and it was a shock to my mom because now all of a sudden they had me to lean on. They've been leaning on me all their lives. And I've been guiding them through this point. And it was just like, no, I can't do this anymore. You guys are taking advantage of me and I'm done. I'm tired. I was so strung out and trying to fix my own self. I was like, you know what? It's time for me to go. And I moved out with a friend. And from then on, I never went back to my mom's house.
And at this point, how old were you? 15, 16?
No, this was older. But
okay.
yeah, this wasn't, I was like 20,
So you were an adult.
Yeah, I was an adult at this
Okay.
point, but you have to figure I've been taking care of them since I was old enough to reach the stove
Right.
to in my 20s. And it's just like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I responsible for this? Like, I didn't ask for this responsibility. At 20, all you want to do is party and go out with your friends and just, live life.
And you're just trying to keep bills paid.
Right. So I left.
Mm-hmm.
And I would still contact my brother's girlfriend to make sure that the bills were getting paid and all that stuff, And my brother actually ended up marrying that girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
And she's like one of the best humans out there in my life. She's become like a rock in my life. So she would kind of report back to me, tell me, oh, this didn't get done. And I would do what I needed to do in the background to make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there, but not there,
Right.
And I would go back and forth between my mom's house and my friend's house. And then, I don't know what happened. Somehow I ended up with a relative, my cousin and her family. And that's where I was. It was at this point, it was just because I wanted to party. And, it was a little bit more under control than when it was when I was younger, because now I had responsibilities. Now I was accountable for myself. So I had to keep my things in order. And,
So at this point, you were already working and supporting yourself, and
yeah, and I was living with my family, my aunt, my cousins. This is my mom's aunt, so this would have been my grandmother's sister.
okay.
So, around this time is when I started taking care of my grandmother. My grandpa had passed away, and my grandmother wasn't doing well. And then she lived in Georgia for a while.
Your grandmother did.
Yes, she lived in Georgia for a while after my grandpa died. And then we moved her here, and that she never went back to Georgia after that.
Huh.
After a while, I've explained the story about my grandma's diagnosis and all that stuff before.
Yeah, she ended up with Alzheimer's and dementia, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
So we decided that she couldn't be alone, because she made a potato or something. She basically turned on the stove, grabbed a pot, and put a potato in there without any water. And it wasn't my turn to go that day, because at that time I was taking turns with my aunts, my mom's sisters, to kind of go in and check in on my grandma. And that was a day where I woke up and I was like, I need to go to my mom's. I really need to go. I should go. I'm going. And when I showed up, I opened the door and whoosh, like all this
Smoke.
And I was like, what the hell? I was panicking, And then I called my mom, my aunts, my uncle. And I was like, we can't leave grandma alone anymore. We need to figure this out, So for a while I was just taking care of her, and it was a mess at that point. I wasn't making enough at that point to kind of support myself and all that stuff. So I was like, we need to figure out how I'm going to get paid, or how I can get paid, because I can't work part-time, take care of my grandmother, and, pay my stuff. So, I decided to look, and we found out that, oh, well, the state will pay for you to take care. And that's how it started. It started maybe 10 hours a week. And then as my grandmother progressed, it got to be more and more hours, to the point where, I was almost full-time with my grandmother. But even though I wasn't getting paid for full-time hours, I was always there, So around this time, I was older. I don't remember how old I was at this point, but real quick, I haven't mentioned anything. I was with somebody for 14 years, maybe 16. I don't know. Basically all of my 20s into my,
So you were with them while you were doing all this extra stuff.
well, yeah,
Okay.
his friend.
And they participated in it, I'm assuming, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So I became friends with his friends. He became friends with my people, and we just formed this big group. And it was just Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and holidays we would go to certain people's houses, get messed up, do drugs, drink, and just party and do, all that stuff. But like I said, it wasn't as bad as when I was younger, but it still wasn't good for me, you know. Um, but eventually I started to kind of see the patterns, and I was in a very unhealthy relationship with someone. Um, he was good to be with when I was drinking and doing all that stuff. But when I was sober and he was doing stuff, I couldn't stand it. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I stayed for so long with him. I know that he wasn't happy with me and I wasn't happy with him towards the end.
Right.
And it was just like, I can't do this with you anymore. Like, I'm mean to you, you're mean to me. Like, what are we doing? He didn't want to settle down. And mind you, we had been together for a really long time. He didn't want to settle down. He didn't want to get a place together. He didn't. So I was like, why am I with you for so long? Like, where is this going to go? And I'm so glad that things happened the way that they did. And we kind of, I just got tired one day and I was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. I'm not happy. You're not happy. We hate each other. Like, what are we doing? And it hurt me to kind of do that because I had been together for him so long. I met him in high school, and we didn't start dating till after high school. And it was just, it was not a good relationship because when I was with him, he was drinking and other stuff, and I was doing the same thing. It was just like, it just wasn't conducive to what I wanted in life anymore.
Right.
So I stopped hanging out with him. By this point, some of the people in the group had, moved, and just the group kind of broke up, which made it easier for me to decide, like, okay, like after this, like no more,
Right.
so I completely, stopped doing drugs, and I moved in with my brother. I lived with him for a long time, and I was getting my life together. I started working on my own business. I was doing the cooking and catering thing, and just I had my steady flow of people while I was still taking care of my grandma.
Right.
I had clients through an agency, and I was doing my business on the side.
Right.
And that was probably the most productive I had been in a really long time because I was always busy and just moving around. And, I started to take care of myself, and just, things got better slowly, better, better, and better. And I ended up dating somebody else that I met, and I was on and off with him all the time. It was another volatile relationship or whatever. We just ended up being too toxic for each other, and it was just eventually, um, I'm gonna move forward, and I had an accident one day when I was running late for work. I had a head injury. I was in a hurry. When you're in a hurry, well, I don't know if you're like that, but I know other people are. You jump in the shower, you have the towel around you, you're running around trying to get your stuff together.
Right.
And I wasn't even that late. Like, I still had 45 minutes to get ready, and I still had another 20 minutes to get to work.
Right.
So I had plenty of time, but I was just kind of panicking just because, I was in a hurry.
Right.
Well, I was walking around the house barefoot, and my brother has concrete floors with ceramic tile.
Right.
And there was like a level up, like a little step.
Right.
So my kitchen was like on a lower level, but there was a step that was like 3 inches tall, and then you would walk into the living room.
Right.
So I took a misstep, and I ended up slipping backwards, and my head hit the actual corner of the step,
Right.
and my head bounced 3 times, right?
Wow.
And I remember I kind of just sat there because I was like really dizzy, and I was like, what the hell just happened? And I grabbed the chair and I tried to pull myself up, and I got up and I fell back again. And then I hit my head another last time, and that was the blow that kind of took me out.
Right.
I just remember bits and pieces at this point. I had, I don't know what happened. Like, I fell and I was really dizzy and nauseous,
Right.
and I couldn't focus on anything. And I was so dizzy that like I was crawling on the floor. And I just remember my phone is in the room, so I kind of crawled from the floor in my living room to my bedroom.
Right.
And I was looking for my phone, and I don't know how, but I managed to call my aunt that I was living with. Or no, I called my cousin that we were living with at the time, or before that. And I was like, I need help. She's like, what's wrong? I was like, I fell. And she's like, how? I was like, I don't know. I don't know where I am. I'm really lost. She's like, where are you? I was like, in my bed. And then she's like, okay, I can't get to you, but I'm going to send my mom and she's going to take you to the hospital. I don't know how I got dressed, how I made it up the stairs. I just remember that I opened my eyes and my aunt was shaking me because I was falling asleep. And she's like, don't fall asleep.
Mm.
And this was on our way to the hospital. And I was so tired. And that was your brain trying to shut down so you
Yeah.
pass on, you know? So, they got me to the emergency room. They did all sorts of scans and everything, and it turns out that I had split my skull open.
Mm.
And the blows to my head were so, I don't want to say perfect, but they hit me just in the right places for me to lose consciousness and somehow figure it out. They estimate that from the time that I hit my head and passed out and called my family and I got to the hospital, they looked at my phone and it was actually almost an hour and a half.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know what happened between that time.
Right.
You know, to me, it's like I have flashbacks and stuff. So they're like, oh, okay, you have a concussion. But at this point, they thought that it was just like a simple concussion and stuff. Um, so they stitched my head up, you know, gave me medications and told me to follow up with a neurologist, right? So, the next few days were so hard for me. Like, I couldn't walk. I would lose my train of thought. I would just, it was like I had Alzheimer's. Like, you know, I would just stop mid sentence and forget everything that I was just talking about. And I would just zone out. Like I would mentally, like I would go black. Like I don't know what I was doing during that time. So I went back to the emergency room and they did more tests and they ended up seeing that I had brain damage. I had actually scraped my brain and cut my brain with those bounces because your head is like a bowling ball. You know, it's not just gonna plunk and it's gonna bounce a few times. And I hit that corner precisely to where it was enough to mess me up.
Uh.
And had I fallen just an inch higher, it would have broken my neck and I would have it would have been over for me. So they started doing tests and they sent me to a neurologist, and the neurologist's like, well, we have scans and you kind of messed up your brain and you're going to have to go to therapy and all this stuff. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, it was just a fall. But people don't realize that like falls are really, really bad, you know? So, I remember that I couldn't be by myself anymore. My world was changing because I was used to living by myself at this point, and now I had to go stay back with my aunt because I needed to be with someone to help me.
Man, it's kind of interesting how it almost mirrors kind of your grandma situation, maybe.
Kind of. And the funny thing is that I was taking the same medication that my grandmother was in the beginning. Because my brain was I was so gone, like I couldn't sit and watch TV because I would feel like the whole room would start to spin because of the motions. I would have seizures because of flashing colors. I was gone. Like, you know, I couldn't walk for too long. I remember I got brave after a few days. I got tired of being inside. And my cousins were like, let's go to the zoo. I was like, great. Sounds like an awesome idea. No. I fell while I was walking. I was very unbalanced. I was just kind of like in a day. It looked like I was high, basically, but I wasn't. And I was like, you know what? We have to go home. And, you know, they were explaining to me that, you know, sometimes that'll happen when you injure your brain. You don't necessarily feel the effects right away, but I kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it was horrible because I wasn't able to work at this point anymore. I wasn't able to drive, to get my groceries. All of a sudden I had to depend on people, and I've been very independent my whole life. So for me to bend at the knee and say, "Hey guys, I need help," was a huge thing for me,
Right.
And I want to say that this is one of the best things that has happened to me and one of the worst things that has happened to me because I was so messed up and I was so alone at that time. You know, as it is, I'm very closed off to people. And I had certain people that, I thought were going to be there for me, and they weren't. It was just like people disappeared.
You kind of figured out who your real friends were.
Oh, for sure. I figured it out real quick. I've said this before. I had this one friend that I had been friends with for a really long time. And, I just wanted somebody to come sit with me and talk, have a sandwich with me. I don't care. Whatever. And she'd be like, "Oh, I have to work," or this and that. And then, like, I would talk to somebody and they'd be like, "Oh, did you see that such and such is at Navy Pier?" And that was like 15 minutes from where I live. So you're telling me you don't have the time to come see me, but you have time to be 15, 20 minutes away from me. And that was kind of where I was like, you know what? I need to start reevaluating things and I need to get better and I need to focus and I need to do what the doctors are telling me and take the medication. Because once I hit the floor running after this, I'm going to be unstoppable. Like, I'm done with people. And I had a lot of time to reevaluate like who the important people in my life were. You know, I cut out friends, family, just people that didn't serve my purpose anymore. And I was hanging out with a friend that used to work at a sister hotel, and I actually ended up getting him a job there before all of this stuff happened. I met him through another person, and he said that, "Oh, I have a friend who's looking for a job," and that's how I started talking to this guy. And he became somebody that I started to depend on, which is so weird because you don't choose who your family is. You don't choose your friends all the time. Things just kind of happen the way that they're supposed to. And this person that I had just met like a year before, all of a sudden became my chauffeur, my shopper, my driver. Like he became all these different things for me. And I was like, and that kind of hurt because I was like, here I have friends that I've been friends with for an eternity, family that I've been friends with, talking to for an eternity. And here's a stranger.
He's doing more for you than they did.
Right. And it was just like, you know what? He's good peeps. And, I had my sister-in-law to help me. And as I started to get better, I was able to start driving and I did physical therapy, occupational therapy, all those therapies and everything. I had to go to the neurologist every 2 months, and then it was every 4 months, and then it was every 6 months. And now, it's now I can go see him if something's wrong. And I do have kind of,
But as of right now, you're 100% better.
yeah, I have my,
I mean, you still have effects of it, but
right. I'm never going to be 100%, but at least I'm able to drive now. At least I'm able to like walk and have conversations. I'm forgetful as hell. I'll tell you that. My memory isn't all 100%. But I also attribute that to the drugs that I was doing in the past too. There's only so much your brain could take.
right.
But this was actually a pivotal point in my life. I started exercising. I started biking. I started just living life again. And I remember that a friend a long time ago had told me about something about the Apple Century, which was like not a competition, but it's like a bike ride, and you could do like,
Oh, is that the one that's in Michigan?
yes,
Which is funny that you're getting into that because soon after, that's when we kind of met.
yeah. At this point, I had already been broken up with the other guy that I was with for a while, and I was looking for friends. I didn't want friends with benefits. I didn't want a sugar daddy. I didn't want any of that stuff. I genuinely just wanted to rebuild my life and have friends. And I was already starting to plan to go to different states and do the bike thing, travel. I had all these plans and, set in motion. And you know what they say, you have plans, but life has other plans for you. And I remember that um I was scared to do this bike ride because I had never been alone. Well, I had been alone, but I hadn't been alone since my accident.
Mm,
Mind you, I still had balance issues. I still had issues with my speech and with my memory, but I was able to drive and like walk,
right.
you know? So when I told my family, like, hey, I'm going to start training for this, they're like, are you sure it's a good idea? I was like, what's the worst that can happen, So I started riding my bike 5 miles a day and then 10 miles a day, 25 miles, 50 miles, 60 miles a day, you know, and I loved it. I loved it a lot. So when I heard about this opportunity to do the century, I was like, I don't know how many miles I can do, but I'm just going to give it a shot. If I fall and bust my head open again, oh well, it's a consequence of me trying to live life, right? I'm not going to let this control me any further. At this point, it had been like a year where, I was starting to cut back on the therapies and, um, the neurologist, the neuropsychologist, all that stuff,
Right.
I got started to get the depression under control. Um, and I did it. I did 50 miles. And let me tell you, those were the longest 50 miles of my life because it wasn't just like, it wasn't just like roads. It was like country roads. So there's dips, turns, hills. And it was just like, but during this whole time, um, I remember I started crying. I just started bawling. Like,
Mm,
I felt like the wind had knocked out of me. And it was just like I stopped, I got off my bike and I kind of kneeled on the floor and I was like crying, like just sobbing.
this was after you finished the.
No, this was before. This was
Oh,
halfway through. Because when you put your body through strain, your body has a reaction and sometimes when you're holding things in, it releases. Like your body's like, I don't need to hold on to this anymore. I'm going to let it go. And it was just one of those moments, and the bikers would stop and ask me if I'm okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm just having a mental breakdown. Just, I'm good.
okay.
And it was the most cleansing thing that I've ever done for myself.
Mm,
You know, I cried, I bawled, I laughed like a lunatic, and then I got on the bike and I finished. And that is the best thing that I did for myself because I was like, I wasn't supposed to do it. I didn't think I was going to do it and I did it, you know. And of course, around that time, we started talking. And, you know, here we are now.
yes, 2 years later. Well,
No, it's
we're married 2 years.
2 years now.
But yeah, it's kind of funny. I thought she lost interest in me because at the time, she, like you said, she was in the mountains of Michigan
Mountains of Michigan.
with no cell reception,
There
and
are no mountains in Michigan.
I
That's a
would
joke.
I was texting her, and then she just stopped texting me. I'm like, oh, she's not interested.
No, and the funny thing is like, okay, so I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, I have my phone, I have my headphones,
Mhm.
I have my little helmet. I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to music and I'm just gonna conquer this. Halfway through, I lost signal. I had no music, no communication with anybody, no distractions. I think that's why I kind of broke down
Mm,
because I didn't have any distractions, you know what I mean? It was just like, oh, I'm mentally broken. Just let me have and also during this time, I had a lot of help. You know, um, I had severe depression, but it wasn't because a chemical thing. It was because my brain was trying to recalibrate itself.
mm,
After a traumatic brain injury, your brain does that.
right.
And your brain is so stressed out that it doesn't know what to do. So it's like, okay, I'm depressed. Even though you're not depressed, you are depressed because your brain decides like, okay, I don't know what to do. Like there's too many things happening in my brain. I'm just gonna shut everything down. And that's what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And at this point I was like also, thinking about ending myself. I was just in a horrible position. And it's like I had my brothers helping me, I had my mom, I had my sister-in-law, I had, you know, my family just really came through for me, And it was just like I never really said thank you to my family for that, because had it not been for them, I don't think I would have made the progress and the strides that I have made since then. You know, um so yeah, that was like a pivotal point in my life. That injury kind of changed my life. It opened because I got rid of so much crap and so much anger and so much anguish, and just I decided, you know what, from this point on, I'm not going to let people's emotions drive me. I'm not going to let other people's opinions of me hurt me. I'm not going to keep bowing down to people that don't even know I exist. It's like, why am I putting myself through all of this for these people that haven't been there for me, when I have my brothers and I have this friend and I have another friend that are my rocks basically at this point, you know? And like I said, that just changed my whole outlook on life, and I'm so glad that I took that decision, because I mean, it led me to a good life, the life that I, wanted to have, and that I, never thought that I would have. Now I'm mentally stable. Sometimes, I mean,
Well, for the most
for the
part.
most part, I'm mentally stable. I'm drug free. I'm clean. I'm not gonna lie. I do have drinks here and there, but how often have you seen me drink?
Yeah, we're not really drinkers.
No,
No.
I drank once at the wedding, and then I had a drink when we went to the Adele thing,
Oh yeah.
and that was like a
Which
year
is
and a half
basically
apart.
which was basically juice.
Yeah. So, with my grandma passing away and stuff, I did have a moment of weakness where I was like, fuck this. Oh, sorry. We could probably edit that out. Screw this. I don't, I can't cope, and I need to do something. I'm craving things. But it's like, I look at my life now and compare to how I grew up and what I've been through. And it's just like, girl, you are still alive. You might not have $1 billion in the account. You might not, right, yet. You might not have the ideal car that you wanted, but you're alive, you're happy, you're comfortable. I have so many things to live for now and to be grateful for, I'm going to end with this. A lot of times we're expected to fail, from other people, especially when you grew up like I did. We're considered throwaways or junkies, or, you know, you have to find it within yourself to tell these people to screw off. I can't tell you how many times I would listen to people, create rumors about me and just, oh, she's like this and she's that. And have you talked to me? Like, if you don't have my personal number, you don't know me enough to form judgments on me. I don't care. You could think what you want, you know, but the people who really know me for who I am and the people who love me for who I am, they know the truth about things, and that's fine. I'm not here to please other people. As long as you're happy with the people that you're with and you surround yourself with positive things, things will get better, you know?
Yeah.
And drugs, I'm not going to say that I regret anything, because I don't. I had a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie. When you're having fun and you're having a blast and you're, partying, it's great. But it's the downfall that sucks. It's trying to get back up. It's trying to get sober. You know, I've never talked to my brothers and my mom about, the extent. And my mom asked me currently, not too long ago, what did you do? I was like, it doesn't matter. I told my mom, I was like, if you can snort it, drink it, inhale it, whatever it was, that's what I was doing for that night. I was like, it doesn't matter what I did, Mom. What matters is that I'm not on that path anymore. I don't want to glorify drugs or anything like that, but I don't regret anything, because those moments where I was kicked around on drugs, trying to figure my life out, those moments that sucked and hurt me and could have potentially killed me, I don't know how I made it through most nights. But I'm still here. And that's the important part, and that's what I need to focus on. It's like, is it worth it for me to get high or get drunk and lose my stability to start back at zero again, or am I gonna, move on and survive? And I tell you, I was like, every day I have to make the choice, and every day I make the choice to survive. So it's within you to decide what you want to do. And with that, I'm gonna close out because it's been really long.
Well, I want to say that I'm happy that, you know, you got your stuff together. And no, but in all seriousness, I appreciate you sharing that. And that's, you know, it's a great story. And we're just at the beginning, right? Because now here we are together.
And the thing is like, don't let the moments where you messed up define you for like the rest of your life.
Right.
This always used to bother me that certain people, I'm not going to say who, but they always think that I'm still that same person, that violent, angry, drug infused teenager. And I was like, bro, I'm in my 40s. Like, can we let that crap go? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not the same person. I don't have anger issues anymore. I do. I'm not going to lie. But
Yeah, but having a temper isn't really the same, right?
no, and that's
Well,
what I was gonna
you're
say.
not that bad.
No, I have my moments, of course, because I'm human. But it's like you can't control everything. You can only control what you can for that moment.
Right.
I can't control people. I can't control actions, but I can control my actions and my attitudes towards people.
Right. Well, again, thank you for sharing that. That was great. And yeah, guys, remember the website is sessionsandlessonsunscripted.com. Go ahead and visit, and you can hear podcast on there. You can read some of the articles and writings that are on there. Also, if you have anything to ask Gloria about her story, our email is sessionsandlessonsmail@gmail.com. You can also follow us on all the socials, the TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. You know them. You know them all. Give us a follow, like, subscribe, and yeah, that should do it. And you want to add anything else?
Yes, if you guys don't feel like sending us an email, you can always go to the drop down menu on our website and go to what was it?
The share or
Contribute.
contribute.
Contribute. Yes, there you can leave comments or feel free to leave comments on any of our streaming. We're available through all streaming.
Most of the all the
streaming.
major platforms. Yeah.
So just look for us and leave comments there, or like I said, just go to the drop down menu on our website.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. We truly appreciate you. Please spread the word about Sessions and Lessons Unscripted. Let your friends know. Spread the word. Appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.